Welcome back to Self Made. Sorry, for a second I forgot the name of my own podcast. But we are back in full swing. I've had a very busy week. I don't know about you, but I mean, you can't really complain, right? It's busy is good in business. So yeah, this industry, man, it just keeps growing and growing. I would love to see some projected growth figures for what the cleaning industry is going to do over the next, couple of years or 5 to 10 years. It's just going to be incredible. I mean, out of COVID, we saw the biggest explosion of growth in the cleaning industry that we've ever seen. It's just unprecedented, and it doesn't show any signs of stopping. Like at the moment, as of recording this, we have $1.2 million of quotes that we have quoted and delivered that we are waiting to hear back from. And I was talking to Stacey about this, and she's like, "Oh God, Jason, I'm like really nervous. What if all of these people come back and they say yes, like next week? What are we going to do?" I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do, Stace. But look, it's a good problem to have, and we will cross that bridge when we get there. If $1.2 million suddenly says yes to us, I'll figure it out. Leave that with me. But realistically, if they really did all just say yes at the same time, I don't know what I'd do. I would have to pump a lot of money into ads very, very quickly, get some new staff on board, because we do not have enough staff in the wings to cover all of that work. But like I said, good problem to have. And statistically, we're probably not going to close all of them. We're hoping to get half of that. There's one contract that we've been told, Stacey knows the person who's managing that place, and she kind of quietly said, we've kind of got this one. They just have to wait for something, some sort of approval from the head office, which is almost guaranteed to come. So we're pretty much guaranteed a couple $100,000 in contracts there alone. So that's really, really cool. And yeah, it's just the same old stuff. It's just getting bigger and better. So my role at the moment, and people have asked me what do you do these days? Because my growth over the last 12 months in particular, 12 to 24 months, has been really, really big. And a lot of you may have been following me since kind of the genesis of my social media stuff, which was 2.5 years ago. And, I'd built a pretty substantial business by that point, but it was by no means anywhere near as big as it is today. And so my role has changed a lot. And a lot of people ask me what I do day to day now. And I tell people that my role now is really just to be the face, the voice, and the push behind the brand. So I'm in charge of all the marketing. I do all of our marketing is organic. We do not spend any money to get customers at the moment. And that's because nearly a third of all of our customers now come from TikTok. And the other two-thirds come from Google SEO, which I built up over the last 5 years, and referral and word of mouth. So we don't spend any money, and for that reason, as a result of that, my job is to kind of be that organic marketing push. But the goal is we don't want to be doing that forever. I don't want to rely on organic forever. We are going to spend money on ads, but we're just in no position to do that at the moment. We have too much work coming in, and we're only just keeping up with it. So once we get ahead of this curve, we will start pumping money into paid ads. And again, I'll be in charge of all that because I like to do all the marketing. I also like doing the social media. So yeah, my day-to-day is just marketing, making video content, and building back-end systems. I don't do systems much anymore. I spend maybe half an hour a day just building some stuff or working or reworking something in the Notion back-end. And that's really the extent of it. I try not to spend a lot of time on it because it really bogs me down. As much as I enjoy it, it's just so mentally taxing trying to come up with these ideas, problem solve for these different systems, and try to streamline so many different processes at the same time. So it's pretty exhausting, to be honest with you. So I try not to spend a ton of time on it. But yeah, day to day, that's kind of what my role is now. I am acting as the figurehead of the brand. I do all the marketing, I build systems, and that's it. Besides that, I don't really do a lot else. I don't clean much at all anymore. Another question someone asked me was, how often do you clean as the owner? And I'm like, well, as much as I want. So some weeks, if I feel bored, if I've got a lot of time and I want to make some content, I'll put myself on a bunch of cleans, and I might do 8 hours of cleaning that week. And then some weeks, like last week and the week before, I did no cleaning at all. So yeah, it's an interesting period for me. It's a big transitionary time. It's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts, a lot of people involved now. So just navigating that, it's all new to me. but it's a lot of fun. And I'm trying to stay true to who I am. Like, I love cleaning. I really am passionate about this. And so I never want to fully give it up. I never want to fully step away from that. I don't care how big and how grandiose this gets. I always want to be on the floor and in the field with my team in some capacity. So yeah, that's what I do. And long term, my goals have changed a lot. I don't know if I talked about this in, podcasts months and months or even years ago, or in my TikToks, but I think I used to say that I wasn't really a big fan of franchising and I didn't really want to go down that route. But my mind has changed massively over the past, I would say, 9 to 12 months. I've really been almost radicalized to want to franchise. So when you've got a good thing going and you have all this momentum and all of this opportunity and this potential, the last thing you want to do is just give it up or slow yourself down on purpose. And that's kind of where I'm at now, is that I've built this business over the last 6 years to this point. And I'm doing pretty well. Like the business is a pretty substantial size. A lot of businesses in this space will never see these kind of revenue figures, team size, and this kind of scale. But 6 years is a long time. If I made this much progress in the next 6 years, let's just say I double my business and it took me 6 years to do that, I would be disappointed. I've got very, very big goals for the next 5 to 10 years. And part of that now is franchising. So it took me 5 years to build Bunbury, our main location. And I think it was 4 years to get it to $1 million. Okay, now I can do that again in 12 to 18 months. I'm doing it right now in Perth. Perth is well on its way to $1 million a year in recurring revenue. And so I've decreased the timeline that it has taken me to build a successful business of that size. But if I want to keep doing that again and again, if I want to go into another area, let's say if I want to expand into Brisbane, I then need to be in charge of all the operations there. I need to employ an operations manager. I need to go into the red for 6 months until things are profitable. I need to be overseeing everything there. I need to do all the marketing. I need to look after everyone. And then if you multiply that by 5 or 10, if I want to run all of my own locations, it's going to be tough. It's going to take me a lot more time, and it's going to be a lot more stress and a lot more work for me to get to the same result. Whereas if I can just box this opportunity up and sell it to someone who wants it more than me, which is what a franchise is, it's just an opportunity for a business opportunity that's boxed up and is sold to a prospective franchisee. So that's my goal for the next 2 years. I'm going to really refine everything that is in my business now. I'm going to refine all the systems, the back end of it, make sure everything can really run autonomously without me. I haven't really had much to do with the main business for the last 2 years now, and it has continued to grow without me. But there's still lots of little things that I want to patch up and just things I want to get in place before I even think about franchising. But so that's the long-term vision for me now. I have too much opportunity here to just say no to it. And I want to do franchising in a really new and fresh and innovative way because, the franchising industry, it's frowned upon. It's not really looked at with a sense of prestige. People don't look at a franchise owner and think wow, I want to be them. Everyone looks at franchises and they're like, that person must be trapped. That's they've just bought a job that they can't get out of until the franchise ends up buying it back. I don't want to be like that. I want to do it very differently. And so for the next 1 to 2 years, all I'm going to be thinking about is how can I provide the most amount of value to a prospective franchisee and do this in a new, bigger, better, faster, cheaper, more efficient way, basically. And that's how I'm going to achieve real scale. I'm going to sell locations. And my goal is to build a $20 to $30 million business just off selling franchises. And yeah, if I were to do that myself, if I were to just keep opening up my own locations, which is entirely possible, it's doable, it's going to take me much, much more time. Whereas I can just sell someone the opportunity and they can be in charge of all their own marketing. They can be in charge of the clients. They can take care of their own staff and they can just use my systems and my frameworks to get them there. Okay, so that's kind of my long-term goal now. My vision has changed quite a bit. And so for the next couple of years, I'll just be building up Perth and Bunbury both at the same time. And then when I get them both to about, I'd say $5-6 million, I will franchise it. And by that point, I will have hashed out all the systems. Everything will be set in stone. And yeah, I'll be able to box that up and sell that as an opportunity to someone else who wants it a lot more than I do, which is basically what franchising is. And I'm looking forward to that. I'm really excited. So over the next few years, you're probably going to see me a lot more because I'm really doubling down on my personal brand. I'm going to be making a lot more content. This podcast doesn't really, it's not really that vital to my personal brand. I don't really make money from this. I guess I could in future. I could potentially sell franchises via this podcast, but like this is one of those things that I just do for fun. Even my TikTok, I do that for fun, but I'm going to be doing a lot more of it, even if I never really intended to, just because it's too good of an opportunity for me to just kind of let slip through, if that makes sense. So yeah, the podcast, I've always enjoyed just doing this for fun, but this might actually turn into an opportunity for my franchising business later on. So yeah, you'll be seeing a lot more of me in the near future, and hopefully you're okay with that. I don't know how sick of seeing me you guys are yet, but prepare yourselves. But anyway, in this podcast today, I wanted to answer a few questions that I see get brought up a lot in my coaching community with my mentoring clients, and I also just see it a lot in the forums and different websites, and people will comment on my videos and my live streams, and they ask these questions time and time again. And so I'm just going to answer these in today's podcast, and I might make like a little thing of this where every couple of weeks I open this up to a Q&A, and you can ask questions and I'll answer them in the form of a podcast. So I'm going to quickly bring up those questions and we'll get stuck into it. So I was on a Q&A call last night with my some of my mentoring clients, and these questions got brought up again, as they do every now and then, because it's kind of that phase where you go from cleaner to business owner. Like I say, not everyone owns a cleaning business. Most people just own a job. They don't really know what they're doing. They don't have a good grasp on their margins, their numbers, their service offering. They don't really have a legitimate business. And I think most people in that position, they don't own a business. They just own a job. So how do we get from job owner to business owner? And part of that process, part of that transition comes with some of these things we're about to talk about. So one of the questions was, how do I add GST or raise prices or both at the same time without losing clients? So that's that transitionary period where you finally become enlightened. you realize that you're not charging enough money, and you need to do a big price increase. And it's usually a big one. It's like 30-40%. My first big price increase was exactly that. I went from like $30 an hour to 45 or something like that. Maybe I think it was even 50 at that point. And in doing that, I also had to introduce GST because I then crossed over the $75,000 a year threshold. So it was a double whammy. I had to increase prices like 50%. And I was like, well, I'm going to lose all my clients, because why the hell would people stay with me and get the same service and just pay like nearly twice as much for it, right? It just doesn't make sense. And it doesn't make sense. But that's why we have to make sense of it for the client. So when you're introducing GST or making a significant price adjustment, the most effective strategy is to provide your client with options. Okay, so this helps them maintain a sense of control while allowing you to adjust your rates accordingly. So I've talked about this in a previous podcast where I talked about the yes or yes close. You don't want to give a client the option and be like, all right, I need to increase my prices, so we're going to put you up from $105 a week to $180 a week. Is that okay with you? And the client's going to be like, no. Okay? There are two options there, yes or no. And most of them are going to go for the no, because they've suddenly just got a massive price increase and they're getting nothing for it. So they're going to say no, obviously. If Netflix emailed me and were like, hey, you're going to get the exact same thing, but we're going to charge you twice as much starting next month, I'd be like, see you later. So what you need to do is you need to give them options. You need to give them the freedom or the illusion of choice. And so what I did when I increased my prices years and years ago was I did everything on an hourly basis, and my clean was pretty like standard. It wasn't like a very thorough clean because I was charging peanuts. So why would I be doing a really crazy clean? And so when I increased my prices for the first time, I gave clients the option. I was like, we can either keep you on the same price that you're on now, and we can just knock some things off the scope. We can do some things that you don't really prioritize. So let's say I was doing a full house clean for $100. I can say, we can keep you on $100 if you want to stay at that price, but we'll just take out all the dusting, or we'll take out one of these bathrooms and we'll do that bathroom once a fortnight instead of every week. And we just work it out so that we can decrease the amount of time, but still charge the same amount of money. So the customer, if budget is an issue for them, if they do have budget constraints, we can keep it to a workable standard for them. And then we have the middle option, which is the standard package. And that's where it includes the exact same service they're getting, but now the price is reflective of what your increase needs to be. So they get the exact same service and they just get a slightly higher price. Now, the premium package, which is the third option, and it's what you hope all the clients are actually going to go for, is where you offer an elevated level of service. So this may include services like inside window cleaning, intensive dusting, fridge cleaning, oven cleaning, fan cleaning, aircon cleaning, whatever you can think of. Things that have a high perceived value, but don't actually significantly increase the time per clean. So example of this is, if you do a full house clean, like bathrooms, kitchen, dusting, floors, and you charge, let's just say $200 a fortnight for that. If you need to go to 250, but you can't really, there isn't any more things you can do, right? Without having to increase the price a lot, you can say to the client, look, we need to increase prices to this. Here's the deal. We can increase to 250, but you're going to get XYZ added onto every service. Like, we're going to clean your alfresco sliding doors from now on. We're going to give your oven a clean once a month or once every quarter. And that's going to be that's going to be included in your new cost. So like windows, ovens, all these things are a great upsell that are really good at increasing the margin on what you do. So like the general cleaning you do, like let's just say you charge $50 an hour equivalent, or the equivalent of $50 an hour. That's all you're ever going to make if you do the cleaning that you do. But then if you just say, all right, $10 per window, and they've got 3 windows they want cleaned every week. That's $30 to clean those 3 windows. That will take you like 10 minutes. Okay, so what is that in terms of an hourly rate? I can't do the math. What is that? Like $180 an hour. Because if it's taking you 10 minutes and you're charging $30, you just times that by 6, and that would be an hour. So $30 times 6 is 180. You're effectively making $180 an hour on that upsell. So you add that onto your existing service, and that increases the profit per hour, if that makes sense. So before, if you were making $50 an hour for 3 hours, so $150, and then you did an extra 10 minutes and you charged $30 for that, so we're now at $180 for 3 hours and 10 minutes. What is that? I actually can't do math. I'm going to quickly do the math here. 380 by 3.2. So that has increased your hourly rate for that whole 3 hours and 10 minutes by nearly $7. It was $50, now it's $57, just by doing a 10-minute window clean for $30. And you might be thinking, like, that sounds ridiculous. Why would anyone pay that amount of money? People do. I don't know. Don't take it from me. Take it from the hundreds of clients I have. We have so many clients that ask to get their alfresco sliding doors cleaned just because we make it an option. When we do the walkthrough, it's always like, they're always the dirtiest part of the home. And it's like the most centrifugal part of it too. Like, it's the one thing you notice in an otherwise clean home. So we're like, hey, do you want to add in the alfresco sliding doors? We can clean those every week or every fortnight, and we can just chuck that in for like $25, $30. And they're like, yeah, cool, awesome. And you add that in, that increases your average profit per hour, and that elevates your margins across the board. So that 10-minute clean will increase the margin for the other 3 hours. It subsidizes the other stuff you do. So I'm hoping that this is kind of sparking some ideas in your head, where if you want to increase your prices, you don't always just have to make it a negative for the client. You can actually add high perceived value things into the clean and charge a little bit more for it, where it's not going to take you much more time to do. It's going to be a high value to the client because they want this stuff done and they don't have to be out of pocket a lot of money for it. Like, to get a couple of windows cleaned for $30, not a big deal to the client, and also not a big deal at all for you to service. So that's an example of a really good upsell. Now, ovens as well. Ovens are great. If you can clean an oven for $200. That's what I used to charge when I used to clean ovens. I would charge $200. I would get it done in like an hour or an hour and a half. So another really good upsell. If you want to like do an oven clean for people every 3 months, and you can say the value of that is $200, you can just build that into their regular service, and it can be like a subscription model. So every set amount of cleans, they get a free oven clean. Let's say someone is on a fortnightly basis, so they have 2 cleans a month. Okay, let's say it's a $150 clean. You can just say, hey, if we're going to increase your price to $175, including GST or excluding GST, and we need to do that because of XYZ, like the business is changing, we're growing or evolving, blah, blah, blah. You can say, you're also going to get a complimentary oven clean every quarter as part of this. So your oven is going to be looking fresh and brand new all year round, and you only have to pay an extra certain amount of dollars per service, which is great. Okay, that's another upsell that you can do. There's all these different ideas that you can have, but for me, I kept it pretty simple. And like in terms of what I would do differently, I did a really big price increase years ago. It was I think it was like 40 or 50%. It was big. And that was, I'm like most people, I realized I wasn't making enough money. If I ever wanted to hire staff and grow the business, I could not keep going like that. So I did a big price increase. I gave people the yes or yes close. I was like, we can either put you on the basic, keep you at the same price, and just decrease the scope of the work. We can keep you on, or go to the standard package, which will be the same service you get at a slightly higher price. Maybe put some things on rotation, like, the skirting boards can be done once a month instead of once a week. The door frames can be done fortnightly. Touch points can be done fortnightly instead of weekly, all that sort of stuff. Or the premium package where you get an elevated level of service, and we can maybe even chuck in a few upsells, a few high perceived value add-ons like window cleaning, oven cleaning, fan cleaning, exhaust cleaning, aircon, whatever. Okay, so those were the options I gave my clients. Most of them actually went for the premium package. Some of them stayed or kind of in the middle and got the standard, and they were happy to increase the price a little bit. And I can't really remember what else happened. I think maybe a few people went to basic, and out of like 40 clients, I only lost one. It was a really, really successful transition. I think actually, no, sorry. I lost 2 clients. I just remembered. I lost a guy. I was cleaning his house for $70 a week. I had to increase him to 120. Pretty big increase, and he cancelled, but he ended up coming back later on. And then there was someone else who cancelled as well, but they were paying me peanuts. So I was not unhappy about that at all. And because I increased my prices so much, even though I lost 2 clients, I was still making like 30% more profit. It was really good. And there's other ways that you can kind of carry this over the line. You don't just want to give them 3 options and hope for the best. One thing you can do to increase your chances if you're worried about like all of your clients just canceling on you at once, if you increase your prices, is you do a staggered rollout. So if you have, let's just say you have 20 clients, you don't want to do an email all at once because they might come back and all just cancel all at once, which would suck. And so instead, you can email maybe 3, maybe 4 clients at a time. So week 1, you can email 4 and be like, hey, we're increasing our prices. We're adding GST, whatever it may be. These are the new prices. This is what you're going to get. This is what you can choose from. All that stuff. You give them the whole spiel. And then the next week, you do another 4 once you've heard back from the first 4. And you just keep going and going. You do like 3 or 4 every week or every fortnight. And then after a couple of months, you've gone through your whole list. And if you do lose clients, it's okay because you've kind of done that over a drip fed period. It's not all at once, so you're not going to take a hit. And in that time, like let's say week 1, you message 4 clients, one of them drops off. Okay, week 2, you can remarket, you can get another client and you can fill that gap. So a staggered rollout is really important because you don't want to be in that position where maybe you do lose quite a few clients and it does impact your earning capacity a little bit. So a staggered rollout is really important. And it's also just as important, I would say this is the most important thing actually, to educate your clients on why you have to increase your prices. Educate them on what GST is and why you have to now charge it. Position this milestone as like a sign of your business's growth and legitimacy. If your messaging is like clear and consistent, most reasonable clients will remain on board. Like those that are unwilling to accept a transparent, structured pricing change they may not be ideal long-term anyway. And I always say to people, make the invisible visible to your customers. I'm talking about the whole back end of your business, all the expenses that go into delivering the service that you do. Because for the customer, you might just be someone that comes through once a week, cleans their home, leaves, and bills them. They don't know all the other stuff that goes on in your business. They don't know how you have to fight every single day to get new clients. They don't know about the insurance you have to pay. They don't know how much money it costs for you to get all your equipment. They don't understand how much money you have to pay in fuel, all the other stuff. So make the invisible visible to them. They're not going to know unless you tell them. So let them in on that, and let them in on the core values, the mission, and the vision as well, because that's also important too. If you do a price increase and the customer is fully educated and filled in on all of that stuff and the mission and the vision and where you want to take the business, they're going to be much more inclined to keep you on board, because for most clients, at least in my case, they don't really care about price. They just want good, consistent service from someone that's reliable, trustworthy, and communicates well. So take all of that into account if you have to do a price increase or add GST onto your prices. And, the GST thing sucks because you're just increasing your margins, increasing the cost of your services by 10%, and you're not getting anything out of it. And the client just has to pay more money. And they're like, this sucks. So take all of that into consideration when you do a price increase, and you will see a much better result. You're not going to lose a lot of clients. If anything, you might not lose any clients at all if you do those steps. And it's going to be a much more stress-free period for you, because you're not going to have to worry about like, oh, what if I lose all of my clients at once? Okay, there won't be any of that. All right, now the next question that I wanted to get through is, what happens if you hire staff but don't have enough clients to fill their schedule? In other words, what happens if you are overstaffed? Now, I always tell people it's better to be overstaffed. And this is a common challenge during growth. Like, hiring ahead of demand can feel kind of risky, but it often proves to be a necessary step in ensuring that you have the operational capacity to grow sustainably. In my business, we have nearly 50 staff. In Bunbury, we're always overstaffed by a couple people. We always have people just kind of floating around with trainers, and like they'll be paired up with someone, and so that trainer will have a pretty easy day because they've got the trainee doing the work for them for the most part. And yeah, but then as soon as we get more clients, we have an influx of clients, then that person floating around with the trainer will then go and take care of those jobs. And by then they've already been indoctrinated, they've been onboarded, they've been trained, and so they can take over those cleans straight away. Whereas if we're understaffed and then we get more clients, we are screwed. You always want to be overstaffed instead of understaffed. Now, that's all good and well and good for a business of my size, where I've got 35 staff and hundreds of clients. But what about a newer business? How do you deal with that? Well, same sort of concept. My Perth business, which is much smaller than my Bunbury business, I've got 8 staff in Perth, and more recently I had 4, so I've only really just started growing it. And so I was in that position where I needed staff, but didn't have a lot of clients, but I was preparing for growth. I was gearing up for growth, and I knew I needed the staff, but I was overstaffed. And so I'm like, how do I deal with this? And so everyone that I interviewed, I was very transparent. I was like, hey, this business is new. We're just starting out here. And so we don't have the freedom of choice for you to pick jobs near where you live. There's not going to be a lot of hours available. Like if you want 25 hours a week immediately, this probably isn't going to be the best thing for you. But if you're happy to wait, if you're happy to just stay on board while we're in this growth phase, we're going to reward you. And so what's that going to look like? Well, most people that work for us, they follow a level up system, and they might make it to level 3 after 1.5 to 2 years, which is a higher pay rate. This is what the pay rate looks like. This is what it is, blah, blah, blah. This is usually how people get there. But for you, because this is our new location, as an incentive for you to stick around while things are slow, while things are small, we're going to accelerate your progression on this level up system. We're going to put you on level 2 after 60 days. And then after a further 60 or 90 days, we're going to put you straight up to level 3. So you're going to shortcut that system by 1.5 years just because you're one of the founding members of this new location. Does that make sense? So you be very upfront with them. You don't try the whole smoke and mirrors thing of being like, oh, we're actually a big business. You don't try to fake it till you make it. That's the worst thing you can do. Just be very transparent and very upfront in saying that we are trying to grow the business. We're very small at the moment, but if you stick around, you'll be rewarded. So you just give them more incentives, like a higher pay rise, or a higher pay rate, sorry. And if they stick around, you say that they can get freedom of choice with the clients that they serve. If they want to do clients around their house, around where they live, if they want to do certain types of clients, they can have that freedom of choice because they were one of the founding members of the business. And so you offer that to the first 5 people. And that way you can be ready for growth without having to be understaffed and you needing to cover all of the work that comes through. So I did that. There was this one girl in particular that I hired in Perth. Her name's Izzy. She's really cool. She's still working for us. So I hired her maybe 9 months ago. And this was back when we were just starting to grow it. And I was upfront with her. I was like, hey, like I can probably only give you like 5 hours a week, just to be completely honest with you. But she was in a position where like she was completely fine with that because she's doing a medicine degree and she's barely got any time to work. And so she's like, this is perfect. I can work Wednesday every week. And yeah, I was like, all right, cool. So she was working 1 day a week for like 3 months. And then what happened? The business grew. And so we needed her to do an extra day. I'm like, hey, could you maybe do another day? And she was like, yeah, sure, I can do Thursdays. And so she was doing Wednesdays and Thursdays. But then I had to give cleans to my other cleaners because we were growing the team and we needed to disperse work a bit. So I'm like, hey, things are getting a little bit quiet again for you. Is it okay if we knock your hours back a bit? And she was like, yeah, that's completely fine. And there were actually some weeks where she didn't work at all. There were some weeks where she would do 0 hours, and then the next week she might do 5, and then the next she'd do 10. But so I had that conversation with her up front. It was the first conversation we had. I was very transparent with her, and I did the same thing I did with the other people. I was like, if you stick around, you'll be on a higher pay rate. And now she is on the level 3 award. So she's making, like over 35 an hour, I think. And she's just working pretty cruisy hours near where she lives. We got clients around her area. And that's how we incentivize people to stick around in the times where they're least likely to stick around because they've got less hours, they have to travel more, all that stuff. So you might lose a bit more money, but it's important that you have that long-term vision and that mindset where you want to build that solid foundation. You shouldn't be worrying about how much money can you squeeze out of this thing before it's even ripe yet. You don't want to squeeze the juice from the orange or the apple before it's even ripe. So work on building that solid foundation and do that by offering incentives to the people that are early on. I call them the founding members. So the first 5 to 7 founding members of my locations, they get a higher incentive. I did the same thing with Stacey like 4.5 years ago. She got a higher pay rate. So did the first few people in Bunbury back then. And that just incentivizes them to stick around and allows you to be overstaffed without worrying about if people are going to leave because they're not getting enough work. So you don't ever want to be understaffed. I always implore people, it's much better to be overstaffed. So with that in mind, work on how you can incorporate that into your existing business now. It's going to look different for everyone, but hopefully that gets some ideas into your head as well. And if you are overstaffed and you have a little bit of money and time that you want to leverage other people for, you can use any downtime for like business building stuff. Like they can distribute flyers for you. They can help prepare social media content. They can help you film training content, or they can help with quality assurance checks. Like all of these things your overstaffed, we call them floaters, can do, the people that float around and don't really have much set work. They can do that. They can do the business building activities if they want some more hours or if you want to give them more work in the interim. And you can assign them to like one-off projects and vacate cleans and deep cleans if they come through kind of sporadically. And that's another way that you can get them hours, and you can pay them a little bit more for that as well. And like I said, just communicate transparently. Communication is the most important piece of this puzzle. It's how I've built a really strong team in Perth. I have not lost one cleaner yet in Perth. I have the same team that I started with, and all the people I've hired so far, none of them have left. Ashlyn she was my first employee in Perth. This was a 17-year-old girl, and like I didn't really have high expectations for her. I don't really have high expectations for kids, you know what I mean? But she has been amazing. Like she is still with me today. It's been like a year now. She's now making a lot of money. She's 18 now. She's making a lot of money for an 18-year-old. And because she was there in the early stages, she's with it. Like she is on board with the vision and the mission because she was there in the early days of the business. And that's another great thing about having people come on board early on, is that they get to be a part of that growth. And they get to have a hand in it. They get to have a say in it. So there's a lot of cool reasons for, trying to grow a business early on, trying to grow that team early on. It's a very magical thing, and it's really cool to have like that collaborative team aspect and that harmony of going up together. And it's actually easier to retain people earlier on for that reason. So yeah, on the flip side, the best thing to do when you're overstaffed is just keep building up your client list. So like if you're understaffed, even just build up a waiting list. And if you're overstaffed, obviously you won't have that problem of being, at capacity. So you maybe won't need a waiting list. But if you are understaffed at the moment, build a waiting list. use that in the meantime, but then transition into an overstaffed long-term mindset. So think about that long-term vision, think about building that solid foundation, and just don't worry about how much money you're making right now. Make enough to survive, by all means, make enough to pay rent and put food on the table, but think long-term, okay? This kind of mindset is what's going to get you to, 6-7 figures. All right, so question 3, how do you get off the tools when clients prefer you personally? In other words, if you've been cleaning for someone for a long time and then you start to hire staff, you start to do the things we just talked about, you have to increase prices and hire staff and be overstaffed and all that stuff. How can you replace yourself with an employee and keep the customer happy? Because a lot of the customers, if you've hired staff, then you know it. They're like, oh no, but I don't want to lose you. Can I have you keep cleaning my house? It's like, no, I am now a business owner. I've got to do business owner things. I've got to run this thing. I've got to grow it, all this stuff. And so it's a common bottleneck. Like, it happens to all of us. It happened to me. And it's when the clients, they grow accustomed to the business owner delivering the services. And there's often hesitation when like someone new is introduced. However, if you want to scale your business and move into a leadership role, you must transition out of frontline delivery. So here's a couple of steps to make that transition effective. Number 1, like we talked about before, educate your clients. Be clear that as the business expands, your responsibilities now include oversight, quality assurance, team leadership, and strategic growth. Like, reinforce that stepping back from cleaning is a necessary move to improve service overall. Reassure them about the new cleaner. Emphasize that the staff are background checked, they're fully trained under your direct supervision and held to the same standards that you've always provided, if not more, because now you get to kind of have a bird's eye view over this and you just get to be the quality assurance manager, okay? And implement like a transition period as well. So attend the first few cleans with the new team member. Use that time to introduce them personally and guide them through client-specific preferences. Okay, that builds familiarity and confidence in not only the cleaner and you, but also the client as well. And you want to maintain a feedback loop as well. So follow up with the clients after the handover to ask how the transition went. That's really important. So you want to check in, invite honest feedback, and offer to personally oversee corrections if needed. Sorry, my phone just made a sound. I apologize for that. I really need to remember to put my phone on silent when I do these things. Okay. Lastly, position your business as a brand and not a person. Okay. Position your business as a brand, not a person. Explain the systems and guarantees behind your services. Clients should trust your company standards, not just the individual cleaner. That's the problem a lot of people have. They see you as the business and they don't see the business as the business, right? And so you need to position your business as a brand. Like, Enhanced Cleaning is a brand. When you book Enhanced Cleaning, you don't expect one person to come. There's not one person that you're thinking of. Maybe people think of me, but the people that come from TikTok and TV and stuff, they know I've got a big business. They know what the brand is. And so there's a different expectation that comes with that. All right. You can, consider introducing cleaners as an extension of you, like the mini me's trained in your systems, using your products and held to the same standards. That framing reinforces the continuity, even if you're no longer the one still delivering the work. So like, if a client insists that they only want you, you just have to keep doubling down on those principles. Just keep educating them, keep reassuring them, and have that transitionary period where you might accompany the new cleaner to the house. And one thing I've noticed, when you put someone new on a house that you've been doing for a long time, they start to nitpick everything. Like, I told this story of, I was cleaning this woman's house for like a year and a half, and then I decided I wanted to hire. So I replaced myself with a cleaner. She hated that person. She was like, I don't want that person to ever clean my house again. And I was like, oh, this is so bad. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to make this work. And I tried sending someone else in there. She complained again. And then I sent a third person in who I knew was really, really good. And she complained again. I'm like, all right, show me the areas. And she showed me. And they were things that I was never cleaning. They were things that I had never done myself. But because she had this idea that whoever was going to come in after me was going to do worse work, she started looking for things that she never usually looked at. And so I was like, I was pretty coy about it. I was like, oh yeah, fair enough. Like, we'll make sure that gets done in future. So I passed that feedback onto the cleaner. We keep that feedback loop going. So anytime we get a piece of feedback from the client, pass it to the cleaner. And now she does those things that even I wasn't doing before. So it's like, it's funny. It's funny, right? Like, you can replace yourself with a different cleaner, and the client will start looking at things that even you weren't doing just because they have that preconceived notion that whoever comes in after you isn't going to do a better job. In reality, my staff probably do a better job than me because I have to be on my phone. I'm like answering calls and responding to emails while I clean. I'm like checking TikTok. I'm like editing videos and posting things. And so they're probably going to get a better job if someone else is doing it. But they might like me. They might like my face. They might like talking to me. But realistically, they'll actually get a better service because my cleaners aren't going to be distracted by all the business owner activities I have to do while on the job. So yeah, and at the end of the day, if you're scared about losing a customer because you're putting a different cleaner on their house, what are you scared of? Are you scared that they're going to get rid of you? Why would they get rid of you if they're worried about getting a different cleaner? If they're getting rid of you to get another cleaner, they're doing the exact same thing that they're having a problem with, right? And so I think they'd much rather have someone from your business that is trained the exact same way that you clean. They've been trained on your processes. It's still someone that they trust. It's under the brand that they already know and trust. So why would they get rid of you and do it all over again with someone that they have no idea about, no previous experience with, no indication of whether they're going to be good communication-wise or service-wise or security-wise? So yeah, it's a bit of an irrational fear that people have. And so just expel that from your mind. All right. Put that into perspective. Like logically, what are they going to do? Get rid of you and replace you with a new cleaner? That's exactly what you're worried about, right? It's the complete opposite of what they want. And so, yeah, it's just, you have to go, it's a bit of a transitionary period. You might have to accompany the cleaner to a few cleans. You might have to reassure the client a few times. There's going to be some feedback. It's going to feel clunky, but after a couple months, like everything's going to be fine and you'll never have to look back. Then you can just look forward and you can continue on with growth and those clients will never be an issue again. And then from that point on, all the new clients that you get, they will see the business as a brand and not just a person. So there is that expectation that you'll be sending different people in for the cleans, right? So yeah, those were a couple questions that are kind of pertaining to growth. It's like that first stage of growth where you have to increase prices. You got to hire staff, but you don't have enough work for them, and you need to take yourself off cleans so that you can focus on growing the business. So those are questions I see get asked a lot. They get asked even by my mentoring clients, and so I thought I'd do a little podcast just kind of answering that and giving my perspective and my experience, because obviously I had to go through all of this as well. And I had to go through it twice because I built the Perth business and I did it the exact same way I built Bunbury, just a little bit faster with a bit more money and resources behind me. And so I had the exact same issues, not so much with price increases, but definitely with staff. So yeah, that's how I approach things. That's how I tackle it. And that's all based on my prior knowledge and experience. So take it from me. Don't try to do it alone. You will suffer from it. You'll suffer from the anxiety and the stress and the money and time lost. So just take it from me, do it the right way, and you'll be better for it. So hope you found that helpful. And yeah, so I'm going to get back to doing what I do best. I'm going to make some content, going to do some more marketing stuff. And like I said, you're going to see a lot more of me in future. I'm very excited for that. I'm going to be a lot more, I'd say, full-time with content now. Like I want to be full-time with content. That's kind of the direction I'm headed in because I really want to double down on personal brand. I think, in my opinion, personal brand is going to trump any other form of marketing that you can do for a business. I think that as counterintuitive as it sounds, based on what I just said about how people should view your business as a brand and not a person, I think that every brand should have a spokesperson. There should be a face and a name and a voice attached to it. Okay, but it's not the business being seen as a person. It's the brand having that person that propels it forward, if that makes sense. So I want to be the voice of my personal brand and my business brand. And long term, I want to franchise. I want to sell this business as an opportunity to other people. And that's going to be made a lot easier if people already know me well. And they've had that kind of like parasocial relationship with me on social media if they've been watching me for years. Like I go live on TikTok and Instagram now, and there's people in my live comments asking if they can buy a franchise from me. How crazy is that? People that have never met me, don't really know me personally, will, send me $30,000 on the spot to buy a franchise from me, just like that, just because I went live on TikTok, because they've been watching me for months or maybe years, and they know the journey. They know how passionate I am. They know how driven I am to making this work, and they understand my goals and my values and my vision and my mission. So that's the power of personal brand, and that is what my focus is now. It's what my day-to-day consists of, and it's what you're going to see a lot more of in future. So thanks for listening to another episode of Self Made. Hope you found this helpful, inspiring, and insightful. And with that being said, I'll see you next week, and I'll also put up a link at some point where you can start submitting questions and I'll answer them. Maybe I'll even do two episodes a week. One can be like a Q&A thing, and the other one can just be me rambling like I always do. So let me know your thoughts on that, and wait to hear from me about that Q&A link, because I will get that underway soon, because I love answering your questions, and hopefully I'll be back next week with some more questions to answer. So bye for now.